Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the fascinating and honestly surprisingly complex world of wearable tech manufacturing. I mean, think back just a few years ago, right? Smartwatches were basically just glorified step counters. But today, they're these incredibly complex health monitors and communication hubs all rolled into one tiny device. So, we're opening up the playbook on the 2026 sourcing landscape to see exactly how these devices actually come to life.
So, where are tomorrow's smartwatches actually born? Well, if you're looking at global procurement, all roads lead to one very specific place, the Shenzhen Dongguan corridor in China. It is the absolute undisputed epicenter of the industry. But here's the thing, tapping into this massive hub isn't quite as simple as just clicking add to cart. You're buying software stability, data privacy, and strict battery safety all in one go.
To demystify this massive ecosystem, we've got a really clear roadmap for today. First, the Shenzhen hub. Second, the manufacturer matchmaker. Third, critical vetting factors. And finally, quality and production realities. Let's get right into it. Section 1, the Shenzhen hub. Let's examine exactly why this specific region commands such absolute authority over the wearables market. You know, a smartwatch is fundamentally different from a traditional mechanical watch because it demands the rapid convergence of three highly distinct industries. First, you need high-precision hardware molds. Next, PCBA and semiconductors to pack incredibly complex chips into a microscopic space. And finally, a rock-solid software and app ecosystem. Top-tier manufacturers cluster so closely together in Shenzhen and Dongguan simply because being geographically right next door to all three of these supply chains drastically slashes their lead times. It's like a giant, super efficient puzzle. Moving on to Section 2, the manufacturer matchmaker. This is where we organize this wild landscape by matching your specific buyer intent with the exact right factory.
Okay, the biggest rookie mistake new buyers make is assuming smartwatch sourcing is a one-size-fits-all game. It is absolutely not. Each of the top factories has a completely different specialization, a unique minimum order quantity, and very specific tech strengths. Finding the right partner, that depends entirely on who you are as a buyer and exactly what your end customer expects to get out of the box. Let's actually pull two of these out to really highlight the contrast. Take Longcheer Technology, for instance. They are a Tier 1 giant. If you're a massive enterprise buyer and you need 5G integration plus military standard durability, they're your absolute go-to. But fair warning, their minimum order usually sits at over 10,000 units. On the flip side, you've got Shenzhen Colmi Technology, basically the e-commerce budget king. Say you're launching a new Amazon store with reliable watches, Colmi can get you up and running with a logo print at just 500 pieces. Completely different ballgames.
Now, what if you're looking to build a highly targeted niche brand? This is where the specialists become incredibly fascinating. For health and fitness, WearPie is totally leading the charge in integrating really tricky sensors, like those for blood glucose and heart rate. If pure aesthetics are your priority, DT01 pumps out innovative edge-to-edge displays incredibly fast. And for outdoor hiking, ShareSmart does something awesome. They integrate actual ceramic GPS antennas directly into the hardware for real-time, phone-free tracking. And of course, we literally can't forget the unsung heroes of reliability and scale. Sourcing agents constantly praise Linware for their intense manufacturing discipline and impressively low return rates. Meanwhile, Valdis, they are the absolute masters of massive, scalable logistics. If your strategy targets emerging markets across Latin America or Southeast Asia, they already have the regional certification know-how to get your products across borders seamlessly. All right, Section 3, critical vetting factors. We know who to buy from, but now we're going to look at exactly how to ensure you don't get burned when doing business overseas. The very first vetting factor is what we call the ghost in the machine, the app ecosystem. Here is a wild reality check. The hardware is only half the product. You could have a stunningly beautiful watch case, but if the companion app is buggy or a nightmare for data security, you're staring down a disastrous 20% plus return rate. Mandatory pre-contract app testing is absolutely non-negotiable, especially checking for strict GDPR compliance if you plan to sell anywhere in Europe. Next up, we've got to look under the hood at the watch's performance engine. Never, ever accept a supplier just waving a hand and telling you a watch has a high-speed chip. No way. Insist on knowing the exact microcontroller unit, the literal brain of the watch. Are you getting an entry-level Jerry or bacon chip for promo items, a mid-range Realtek for everyday fashion watches, or are you investing in a high-end Snapdragon or Apollo to guarantee a buttery, smooth interface? you need to know exactly what is powering your device. Which brings us to a critically important number regarding absolute liability, UN 38.3. This is all about battery safety. Remember, we're talking about devices that sit completely flush against human skin and are charged constantly. You absolutely have to verify UN 38.3 and MSDS certifications, and make sure the factory uses an NTC thermistor. That's a tiny little component that prevents the battery from dangerously overheating right on your customer's wrist. And that takes us to our final section, Section 4, Quality and Production Realities. It's time to confront the sometimes harsh, on-the-ground truths of scaling up and managing quality control. Listen to this reality check. Production variability is a real risk. A golden sample might perform perfectly, but the mass production run might use a cheaper screen or a different batch of sensors. It happens. To prevent this kind of silent component swapping, savvy importers heavily advocate for third-party during production inspections. You really want to catch any funny business on the factory floor long before your goods are loaded onto a container ship. Honestly, even with top-tier manufacturers pushing defect rates well under 0.5%, the blunt reality of electronics is that you still need to plan for a 1 to 2% failure rate. Things occasionally just break. It's the nature of the beast. The big pro tip here? Always negotiate a 1% spare parts or extra units allowance directly into your initial contract so you can easily handle customer replacements without taking a hit. Just to quickly wrap up the logistics side, you should expect a standard OEM lead time of about 35 to 45 days. That covers sourcing all the parts and full assembly. Oh, and a final word of warning regarding waterproof claims. If your brand is going to promise true 5 ATM deep water resistance, a quick splash test won't cut it. You have to specify in your contract that every single unit undergoes strict vacuum pressure testing right there on the assembly line. It's pretty incredible to see how this whole ecosystem fits together, isn't it? We've traveled from the bustling manufacturing hubs of Shenzhen, matched up with highly specialized factories, vetted the underlying software, and locked down the realities of mass production. So, now that you hold the keys to this incredible ecosystem and know exactly how to navigate it safely, what kind of wearable brand will you build? The tools are literally right there waiting for you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy sourcing.